So we've created our impression mold and now it's time to photograph it. From just these photographs that you're going to take of this, we are able to reproduce a perfect 3D scan of this impression mold, and from that scan we're able to make a 3D model of your base. Now, photographing this is actually pretty straightforward, but there are a lot of little nuances that you need to be aware of. And the first one is, well, your tabletop. In the last video I said that 3D scanners hate anything transparent or really shiny and reflective. So don't try doing this on a glass tabletop. It will not work. But what 3D scanners do like is that they like textures, they like patterns. Ideally, you would maybe be doing this on a wood tabletop. That's normally what I do it on, and the wood grain in the wood table gives the scanner something to lock onto. We have other customers that do this on granite countertops. The granite pattern works really well, even though the granite can be a little bit shiny, so you have to be careful about that, but it does generally work. Now today, well, I'm doing this on a completely featureless black bar table here. This is not ideal. So what I've done is I have put down this piece of fabric which has a nice pattern on it, and this will give the 3D scanner just something to lock onto. Now you don't have to use anything as fancy as this. You could just use a placemat, you could use maybe a newspaper, you could even just take some old utility bills and just scatter them around. Anything will work as long as it has something that the scanner can see. We need your photos to be nice and clear, right? They can't be blurry, they can't be out of focus. You're going to be hand holding your camera when you do this. So in order to get nice clear shots, you're going to need a lot of light. And lighting is the thing that gives most people the hardest amount of time for this whole process. It doesn't have to be that complicated. As a matter of fact, when we're doing this in our workroom, all we have is just one ceiling light above us, and then I have one floor lamp that I aim at this to give it extra light. That works for us. Other people, well, they'll do this on a kitchen island. Kitchen islands are great because, first of all, kitchens are generally the brightest, most well-lit room in the house, and kitchen islands have usually a bunch of lights hanging right there, makes nice, bright, diffuse light over your mold, which is exactly what you want. Other people, well, they'll just take a desk lamp and just plop it down next to here and aim it at the mold, and that does the job too. The one thing that you have to be careful of, however, are dark shadows. Shadows are our nemesis. If there is a dark shadow in your mold and the camera cannot make out the details of what is inside of that shadow, then the 3D scanner will not be able to scan that part of the mold. So when you're lighting it, just make sure that you do not have dark shadows. The last thing that you're going to need is a ruler. And it has to be a ruler with metric markings on it, so it has to have centimeters. Also, like everything else in this process, the ruler cannot be transparent and it cannot be reflective. So please do not use clear plastic rulers and please do not use metal rulers. Now don't worry, if you don't have a ruler that matches those criteria, you can go to a website called printableruler.net and you can actually print one out. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we are going to take the ruler and we're going to put it in front of our mold like this. Now ideally, we'll actually put it on top. Unfortunately, this isn't an option a lot of times, kind of like now, because the ruler sometimes will cover up part of your mold. Can't do that. So if you do have room, this is the best place to put it. If not, put it in front like this, and it's got to be flush up against the front, parallel to the front of your container. The ruler serves two purposes here. One, well, it tells us which side of this thing is the front, because without it, we have absolutely no idea which side of this is the front. Secondly, the 3D scanner has no idea if your photographs are photographs of a mountain range or an anthill. So it needs some kind of a scale reference, and the metric markings on the ruler give us that scale reference. Now, the ruler cannot move. This is one thing a lot of people seem to get wrong the very first time they do this. A lot of people will start taking photographs of this, and for some reason they like to move the ruler around. Once we start taking photographs of this mold, nothing can move. The ruler must stay exactly where it is. Your lights cannot move. You cannot shift the mold around. Everything must remain perfectly still while we take the photographs of your impression mold. And here's what we're going to do. We need to take a whole lot of photographs 360 degrees around our mold. Okay, we're going to try to create basically a dome of photographs. There's going to be a lot of them. And we're going to start by doing this. We're going to take our camera, in this case I'm using an iPhone 13, we want it in landscape mode, okay? We want it horizontal, and If your phone has a zoom lens, which the iPhone 13 Pro does, got a whole bunch of lenses here, one of them is a zoom lens, we are going to want to use that. So I'm going to tap the 3, that's the 3x zoom lens. Other iPhones have 2x zoom lenses. If you don't have a zoom lens, this will still work, you're okay. But if you do have a zoom lens, you have one extra little benefit, which is that we can go in here and we can turn the flash on. When you use the zoom lens, you should always use the flash. Because what the flash will do is it not only provides a little bit of extra light so that our photographs are nice and clear, but it will also fill in the shadows. Now you can see here, I've got some pretty nasty shadows in this mold because of all these studio lights that I'm using here. The flash should take care of that. Unfortunately, if you do not have a zoom lens on your camera, you cannot use the flash. And the reason is that if you don't have the zoom lens, you have to get really, really close. And this is too close to use the flash. The flash will create more problems than it fixes. But luckily, I do have a zoom lens, so I'm able to get pretty far back. So flash is on, zoom is on. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to rotate this sideways so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to start at the front of the mold, and I'm going to work my way around. And I'm going to take photos at every location. So I'm going to start up high. I do a photo high. Then I'm going to go a little lower, medium, and then I'm going to go low. And notice that I've got the ruler and the mold in the frame. Then I'm going to go close, and I'm going to go closer. Okay, I took 5 shots here. Now I'm going to go over just a little bit. I'm going to go the same thing, high, medium, and low. And you got to make sure you get enough of that ruler in there. Sometimes people have a tendency of getting too close. They don't get enough ruler in the shot, and then bad things happen. Okay, so close, closer. All right, I'm going to go again. Just baby steps over. You don't want to go in big jumps. High, medium, low, close, closer. Okay, once again, high, medium, low. Now, notice that when I go low, I'm not going to go super low. Okay, we don't want to be down here. We're not trying to scan the side of the mineral base. Low is maybe a 45-degree angle, maybe a little less than that. Okay, I'm going to move over, high, medium, low. Notice roughly a 45-degree angle, close, closer. You don't always need to have 2 close-up shots. Usually, one may be sufficient depending on how good your camera is. Oops, notice I'm doing a bad job of getting the ruler in there, so I got to move up here, make sure the ruler's in, medium, low. Maybe on this one I'll just do 1 close-up shot. It really all depends on your camera, on your lighting. The better the photos, the fewer close-up shots you're going to need. Okay, do 1 more right here. Once again, we go high, medium, low, close, closer. And also notice for the close-up shots, you don't want to be down here like this. Okay, you want the close-up shots not to be straight down, but you want them to be kind of at the medium angle. And also when you shoot your high shots, it's almost directly straight down, but not quite. So it's maybe at like an 80 to 85-degree angle. And I go close, closer. Okay, here we go again. Make sure I got the ruler in there. Remember, it's very critical to get as much ruler as you can. Close, closer. One thing that you don't want to do, however, and a lot of people do this, is they try to get too much ruler. They go way back out here. This is no good. We're never going to be able to make out the individual grains of sand if you go that far back. Just get in as close as you can while getting as much of the ruler as you can. So high, medium, low. Let's do 1 close-up here. All right, I'm almost done. High, medium, low, close, closer. Okay, so I just went completely around this thing, 360 degrees. Let's see how many photos I ended up taking this time. Okay, if I go in here, let's see if I just select all of them. I took 57 photos. That's pretty average for what I take when I'm using my iPhone. And that's about what you're going to want. You typically want somewhere between 50 and 60 photos when using an iPhone or any kind of a mobile phone to do this. If you're using a higher resolution camera, you can usually get away with even less photos. But this is a good number. So if you're going around and you're done and you end up with 20 photos, you need to do it over again because that's nowhere near enough. One thing we do ask is that if this is your first time doing this, please inspect your photos before you send them to us. A lot of people just don't get this right the first time. They'll submit to us an order, and in that order, all the photos are out of focus and blurry because they never bothered to actually verify them. So please just load these photos onto your computer, zoom in, and just make sure that you can actually see individual grains of sand in the photos. The photos should look like this one here. Okay, it's nice and clear. You can see the grains of sand. They're not smeared. There's no motion blur. And you also want to make sure that you're not getting grains of sand in the distance that are out of focus and only a few in the front are in focus. So just please verify them and make sure everything looks good before sending the photos to us. So if your photos check out, then you are done. All you have to do at this point is upload your photos, fill out an order form, and then we will start working on your base. Now before I go, I do want to talk about one last thing, and that is your camera. If for any reason you are having a hard time getting crisp, clear, in-focus photos using your iPhone or your Android phone, then you might just want to try using a real camera. My iPhone 13 works great. My old iPhone 10 worked great, but this little Sony Pocket camera here works a whole lot better than either of those ever did. So this is actually now what I use full-time for all of our in-house photos that we do for our molds. It ends up, the Sony here is just better in pretty much every way. First of all, it's got a 20 megapixel sensor. iPhone has 12 megapixels. What that means is that I only have to take about 30 to 40 photos instead of 50 to 60 photos. The iPhone does not do well with those wide shots. You can't really make out all the individual grains of sand. That's why we need the close-up shots. But I don't need so many, if any, close-up shots when I use my pocket camera here. Additionally, I have much better manual control when I use this. I can control the exact amount of zoom that I want. I can control how bright the flash is. And most importantly, I can control the aperture. This particular camera goes up to f11. That's a very tiny little aperture. And that's what I set it to because a tiny aperture means that you're going to have excellent focus. When I shoot with this camera, every single grain of sand is crystal clear and in focus. I have never once had one bad photo come out when I'm using this camera. So if you do have an old pocket camera laying around, you might want to try it because it very well may work a whole lot better than your mobile phone and it may save you a lot of time. So that's all there is to making the mold and photographing it. It really is a very simple process. Generally takes between 3 to 5 minutes from the time you start making the mold to the time you're done photographing it. And as long as you remember to clear the mold, remember to get the ruler in every shot, everything should come out great almost every single time. If you have any questions or any difficulties, please don't hesitate to contact us. We look forward to making some bases for you.